Today's Locked On Thunder podcast. The Oklahoma City Thunder got some good results at the NBA play-in tournament. Plus, practice was off the charts as the Thunder begin their round one prep.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and lead beat writer for InsideTheThunder.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. And on today's show, we are diving into the Thunder beginning their playoff prep as they had practice today, and the energy was off the charts. Why this Thunder team might be poised to continue to do the unthinkable. We'll talk about that, plus the play-in results on today's show. This is the start of another great week at Locked On Thunder. We've already discussed the Thunder getting the 1 seed. We've discussed with Michael Martin who of the 4 the Thunder should want to play. That number's now down to 2. We'll hone in on that today. Still to come, Jacob Niffen of the Uncontested, Andrew Schlecht of the Athletic, Joe Mazzato of the Oklahoman, you know and love, Joel Lorenzi of the Oklahoman, and many more. So it's going to be a lot of fun, wall-to-wall, every single day, talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. The play-in tournament came and went. What went right for the Thunder in this play-in tournament? So the way the bracket shakes out, you're now on the opposite side of the bracket as Denver, as Minnesota, and as the Lakers. This could not have gone any better for Oklahoma City. All of these big teams, and the Nuggets and the Lakers have the experience, and the Timberwolves have, of course, Cat and Rudy. All these big teams are on the opposite side. You've got to take care of one of the Kings or the Pelicans, each of whom are a bit wounded. Now, the Kings, to their credit, had a fantastic showing yesterday. The Golden One Center was rocking. Keegan Murray, posting like 32 points in that game. Keon Ellis getting it done on both ends of the floor. But you would still pick the Thunder to outlast the Kings in a series. And then the Pelicans fall to the Lakers in a game in which Zion has the best game of his career and sadly gets hurt. It hurts his hamstring. He is now set to be reevaluated in a couple of weeks. Brandon Ingram didn't look great his first game back. I think that he'll look better Friday probably. So if the Pelicans on their home court do survive the Kings, there's no Zion for the first, few games of that series. If it's a couple of weeks, it's at least going to be, games 1 and 2 and 3. And question marks about what BI can be. I'm sure as the series goes on, he'd round into better form, of course. But there's still question marks. And whenever you look at this play-in tournament, it's interesting that you still don't know who you're playing yet. I think that creates a little bit of a disadvantage. But Mark brought up a good point of it also allows you to not overthink things. And he admitted that he was worried about that whenever things were trending toward being the 3 seed, and you would know your opponent as soon as the buzzer sounded on Sunday, where you can kind of get into this mindset of over-preparing and overdoing it and outthink yourself, outsmart yourself, and try to do too much and have the players play tight and things like that. Whereas right now, when you're having to go on the fly, it naturally causes you to be business as usual right now. And while the Thunder were still business as usual, there was a different energy at practice today that we're going to talk about. But you could not have drawn up a better bracket for the Thunder than the draw that they've gotten. Then the Lakers winning that game and seeing all those teams on the other side of the bracket as the 1 seed. The playoff schedule is out, and the playoff schedule, I think, can benefit Oklahoma City. Now, On the front end, I think it'll benefit the play-in team a little bit more, right? Because you do have 2 days off in between games 1 and 2, even though you're staying in OKC. So that's a bit of a chance for the eventual play-in winner to regroup and try to split. As the road team, that's your entire goal, is to split the first 2 games. But I still think that the Thunder will take care of business at home. But you pretty much have 2 days. You have 2 days off between game 1 and 2. You have 2 days off between games 2 and 3. You have 1 day off between games 3 and 4, 2 days off between games 4 and 5, 2 days off between games 5 and 6, and then again 2 days, 1 day off between games 6 and 7. So you've got a pretty long leash here, especially if it's New Orleans and you're just hopping down there and back. That would benefit the Thunder in terms of continuously having the rest advantage over their opponent. I think that this Thunder team is going to make it out of the first round. I thought that this whole week, but especially after we saw the way that the play-in tournament shook out. The Thunder have been good against the Kings. The Thunder have been good against the Pelicans. I'll say it again. Like we constantly put on this team how inexperienced that they are. And Shai had a fantastic quote about that today, about that they're going to be young now. They're going to be young next year. They're probably going to be young the year after that. Like they're going to continue to be young. This team's going to be a young team. We talked about on this show how they can't go back and change their birth certificates. Like they're going to be young. They've built a very young nucleus. But what's the one place we've seen this young team take care of business in a postseason environment? New Orleans. So you get that. If you get New Orleans, you're in familiar territory. You're in a place where Josh Giddey just plays really well in New Orleans. Like that, there's little more you can say than that. For whatever reason, things just click there for him. And you get no Zion. The Thunder have continuously played Valanciunas off the floor, whether it be Jalen Williams at center or Chet Holmgren at center. And so now you take away Valanciunas, you take away Zion, and now you're dealing with Nance. You're dealing with B.I., who's a little hobbled, a little rusty. Trey Murphy the third is going to go off. Herb Jones is a great defender for Shai. And that comes down to C.J. McCollum. Ultimately, you have the coach advantage. You have the star power advantage. And you have the production advantage over these teams. So I think that the Thunder had a fantastic first day of the NBA play-in. Now, they won't know who they're going to play until Friday, whenever the Pelicans and the Kings square off. Today will be the Eastern Conference. Tomorrow's an off day. Friday will be both conferences, 9-10 winner against the 7-8 loser. But it's going to be interesting to see how they fare and how they move forward. Now, the Zion injury is huge for OKC. Like, if the Pelicans squeak by, that's a wrap. Who would you rather play between the Kings and the Pelicans? I think you can make a really sound argument for either one. And because you can make a sound argument for either one, it's even more so a opportunity for the Thunder to take care of business, go win your first playoff series since Kevin Durant was in town, get that proverbial, weight off your shoulders of this core getting their first playoff win and getting some experience. And to this team's credit, the entire season, they've been really good at taking care of business. That's what got them the 1 seed. It's specifically what got them the 1 seed this week. You take care of a shorthanded Spurs team, Bucks team, Mavs team. You make a 20-point comeback against these very Kings, and you get the 1 seed because of it. Whereas Denver now has to face off with the Lakers, and they're now their second round matchup gets harder because they couldn't put the Spurs away on Friday after growing a 20-point lead. So it's fascinating. Things are happening left, right, and center. There's a different energy at practice. We'll talk about that coming up. And this city is decked out. This city is decked out for Thunder basketball for the postseason, and I cannot wait for the return. Plus, let's talk about who should be in, who should be out of the playoff rotation, how will they handle their first go of the postseason, all coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Nissan. Check them out today because they're great and they have what you need. Nissan is fantastic. If you're someone who is trying to go a little bit further, push the envelope and see what adventure is around the next corner, our friends over at Nissan can have a lineup of SUVs that you can capitalize on and take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue, which is a perfect vehicle for city drivers who want to have a great escape every now and again, with their 12.3-inch HD touchscreen display and Google system. The Rogue is perfect for the midsize crossover for your next adventure, or the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder with room up to 8 with expansive cargo and the available 4x4 capacity. Go there right now and check it out today. That's Nissan Rogue with the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, and Armada over there at shop.nissanusa.com. That's nissanusa.com to shop there for your next great adventure. Nissan's going to be there for you, getting you in the ride that you need for that adventure. Plus, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Monopoly Go. I've got to admit, folks, I have a competitive side, and I love Monopoly Go. I have a lot of friends that are on Monopoly Go, and that's kind of our way of staying in touch with each other, because you look at Monopoly Go, and it's a spin on the classic board game Monopoly. The really only downside of Monopoly is it's tough to get everybody in the same room to play a board game, especially one that takes that long. Monopoly Go, you're literally playing on the go, and you're still competing with your friends, your family, and everyone else who you want to enjoy this game with. It's a lot of fun to pull off heists on your friends' banks. You can avoid the same tiles that you need to, avoid going to jail, avoid taxes, and make sure that you wreck your friends' boards as well. They have some fantastic options for you. You work your way up through these boards, and you can play on a moon board even if you want to. So check it out today at Monopoly Go. Go there right now with the crazy locations, building up your amazing city, and most importantly, getting big money. So go there right now. Join your friends. Join me at Monopoly Go. Go download Monopoly Go now for free in the App Store or the Google Play Store. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Folks, let's talk about this Oklahoma City Thunder team and the different energy that was at practice. I think that when you look at this team, they've been uncommon. They've been a fun AAU style, but at practice today, there was just something different. And Mark described it best. Mark described it as first day of school energy. But we got 3 players today, and 3 players who were literally racing over to do it. Like usually we're sitting in there waiting, standing around, hanging out. But J-Dub literally sprinted over and beat the Thunder PR extraordinary Matt Templeson to the scrum. And we talked to him for a long time. They were very gracious with their time. Shai got to his availability early and was wrestling with Matt Templeson and making fun of J-Dub whenever he was up there and kind of being lively, and his answers. Look, if you're a Thunder fan, you've probably seen clips and watched interviews of SGA and how calculated he is, how methodical he is, and sometimes he can be very uptight's not the right word, but very concise. Today, he really cut a rug. He really cut a rug today. I mean, he was asked a question about the outside noise. And they're kind of dancing around like, hey, do you hear the outside noise? And then Shai cuts off the question and goes, "Oh, that we're too young, right?" Like, yeah, that we're too young. And the back and forth that he had all day long. He was asked about Mark and talked about how Mark's annoying and just nagging, obviously as a joke. The energy was just, you could feel it in the gym while they were practicing. You can go through and read all the quotes you want to, but just know that there was a stark difference in the vibes at practice today. And they J-Dub told a story that they all got together at Chet Holmgren's house to watch the play-in yesterday. And Lindy said they're going to do the same thing on Friday. Not specifically at Chet's house, but they're just going to get together, have dinner, watch the game Friday. And just seeing them, act like kids, so to say, of when they were asked about playing in front of the crowd and experiencing, even Shai's experiencing his first playoffs in front of the Thunder fans. Like he has played for the Thunder in the playoffs, so has Lou Dort, but that was in the bubble. That was without fans. And even he mentioned how excited he is to have this opportunity, especially as the 1 seed, especially in this position. So I think that whenever you look at this Thunder team, I continue to go back to the opinion of, I think that they're going to win game 1. Now you can argue that like maybe they're too excited and wound up, but this team has never been that way. We don't have any evidence to suggest that this team will be pressing the issue or will be too tight or too lost in the moment. This team has consistently been very business minded on the court, very fun off the court. I don't see a reason for that to stop on Sunday. So while they are giddy and excited about the opportunity to play game one, I still believe they're going to come in there with the necessary intensity and not be overwhelmed, not be shocked by the spotlight. This Thunder team is one of the best in the NBA. And you look at the playoff bracket, and as things couldn't more so break their way, I think they're going to get past round one. Then you've got a tough matchup in round two, no matter who wins that series, Clippers or Mavs. But albeit tough, very winnable. And if you can get 2 series wins, then all of a sudden you're a series win away from the NBA Finals. So that's getting way too far ahead. But the approach today was very noticeable. Chet Holmgren, for example, we were let in at the kind of at the end of practices, where they're kind of just shooting around and getting some extra work in. And typically, as the media avails start, the warm-ups start to die down. The kind of extra work starts to die down, and eventually the gym kind of clears. Chet Holmgren, he did not clear. Again, we talked to 4 people, and they all gave us at least probably like 10 minutes at least. I think more than that for all of them. And Chet Holmgren did not clear the court for really until almost the very last question. He was out there getting extra work in, and very, very intense extra work, I might add. So just as you thought there was like no other gear to get to of excitement, of anticipation, the Thunder have gotten there with this practice today. They'll practice again tomorrow, and then from there we'll see kind of how their schedule lines out. But it was a noticeable difference today. I mean, that was a hot topic around the beat afterward, was how loose and not necessarily loose, but more excited, funny, interactive that everyone was, top to bottom. Mark was asked about his squinting, and he mentioned that he's seen the memes, including the squinting dog. Shout out to Layla for showing him that from Thunder PR. And he says that he actually has the eyesight of a red-tailed hawk. It's not an eyesight thing. It is a thinking thing. And that Richard Pitino takes a screenshot of his television every time that he sees Mark squinting and sends it to Mark and says stuff like, it's going to be sad whenever you cost the team a game because you don't know the score because you're squinting too hard or can't see the score. It's all in good fun, and that was just very interesting. He also takes his coffee black, and he mentioned a gum brand that he chews. We got a lot of good stuff from Mark. Andrew and I asked the hard-hitting questions at the very end. I think it's called like Hugs or something, but I've never heard of it myself. I'm more of a extra guy or Take 5 guy even. But nonetheless, that's the kind of gum he does. I believe he said mint spearmint, something to that degree, which I agree with. Any type of spearmint gum is the route to go. But I think that this team just is prepared, is ready for the postseason. They also were asked about Mark winning Coach of the Year. Fun fact about that. Mark has won the Coach of the Year from the Coaches Association, as did Billy Donovan in 2020, and then Scott Brooks won Coach of the Year as well. That makes 3 straight hires from the Thunder that have been honored with a Coach of the Year award. There's no other team in the history of the NBA who have hired 3 straight Coach of the Year coaches. The only other team who's hired 2 straight Coach of the Year coaches is the Raptors with Dwayne Casey and Nick Nurse. I imagine that he'll win Coach of the Year also, via the writers. I have to imagine, but we'll see. If that actually comes true. I don't think that they'll vote for anyone else. Hardly, they shouldn't vote for anyone else. He should win Coach of the Year from the writers. But what a great job by this organization nailing the hires of like Scott Brooks, Billy Donovan, and Mark, all getting Coach of the Year honors in various seasons and back-to-back hires. That's not hard. It's not easy to pull off, obviously, or else none of these other franchises have done it, even the ones who've been around forever. And then J-Dub and Shai talked about how good of a coach he is and what he brings to the team. And J-Dub mentioned one of the best parts about being a player for Mark is how much he listens to you and how much that he takes your input and how much that he will, levy with you if you see something that you want to do in terms of coverages or plays or whatever you want to do to help the team win. And Mark has a really good philosophy on it, and I think that it goes back to why I believe, and I said since January of his first year, back in 2021 January, right after his season that started like 2 weeks prior because of COVID and all. But I said back then on this very show that he's the best coach in Thunder history. You can see it. You can just see how he not only interacts with players, how the players trust him, but how he is schematically as well. That makes him, the best coach the Thunder have hired of that legendary run. But another reason why is that he is not stuck in his ways, and he has a very good mindset that he said after practice was, coaches can't win games, but they can lose games, and that just goes into what we've talked about all year long, where it's like most coaches have a very rigid way of doing things. Like, these are who I think the best 8 players are. Those are the guys that are going to play. We're going to sink and swim with those 8 guys. Mark has never and will never think that way. Like, he will continuously look for the best combinations, the best results, and the best, the best options for this team. And then you look at the playoffs, and you never know what you're going to have to break out. The most hyped playoff picture right now, the most hyped playoff matchup right now is Mavericks Clippers. Round 3 of that series. You flash back to that series where the Mavericks are playing Boban in that series. No one would have predicted at this time, that in the midweek leading up to that series, that Boban would be this key fixture of that series. But you get the data points along the way to allow you to try that stuff in the postseason. For example, Jay Will and Chet have not played an overly amount together, but the reason why you put them together, for as the Thunder did this year, and don't just stick to the same monotonous 8 to 9 to 10 guys in the regular season, is because you're gonna likely face the Kings, who I think is a perfect matchup to play them a lot together. And because you have the data point, you feel more confident in doing so, and you have the data point against that specific team as well in doing so. So being flexible throughout the regular season pays off in situations like this in the postseason. It's going to be fun. Coming up, let's talk about that playoff rotation. Let's talk about what the Thunder will look to do coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Check out eBay Motors today. They're great, and they understand that just as you're trying to win a championship in basketball, it takes passion, drive, and patience to have a winning formula on the court, but also in the driveway working on your vehicle. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle or level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits to LED headlights and more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to choose from. Your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit. It's guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're going to be burning rubber, not cash. With the great parts to choose from at the prices you want, it's always there to make your car the MVP and bring home a huge win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit. Available for U.S. customers only. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. When you look at the postseason, typically rotations shrink. Typically, you see teams play their top 8 guys. What's Mark going to do as a guy who usually plays 11 to 12 guys per game? I think that's one of the biggest questions for this Thunder team heading into the postseason. And when you look at this team, I don't think that it will be too different from the regular season. Now, that's not to say that they'll play 11, 12 guys the same number of minutes, but I think the number of players could be very similar. I think that you could go win a series and have 4 wins to win the series with 4 different closing lineups. Or 4 wins with 4 different impactful rotational players. because I do believe that Mark will continue to be flexible with whatever the game calls for. Will continue to mix and match, and maybe it takes playing Kenrich 3 minutes, and then realizing, hey, we actually need more shooting than physicality. Let's play Wiggins here a ton, or Kaysen here a ton, like whatever the case is, mixing and matching their way, because they have a lot of options. You have the starting five who you're going to play and start. Then you have Kaysen, Isaiah Joe, Kenrich, Wiggins, Hayward, J. Will. Right? You have a lot of guys. You have a lot of options that you want to, maximize, and guys who can truly help you. And so I think that whenever you're looking at this team, it's not going to be this set, pre-game thing where it's like, hey, heading in, we're playing these 8 guys. That's it. I think it's whatever the game calls for. I think that the only thing that truly changes is I do believe, until proven otherwise, that the one conventional thing that Mark will do and the Thunder will do is play guys like Shai more minutes, which on the surface sounds crazy because Shai does play a ton of minutes, but that's just the nature of the playoffs. Like, the nature of the playoffs is you're going to play them as much as they possibly can take, because everything matters and you're going to want to win every single game. So as a guy who averages 34 minutes a night, that'll get closer to like 38 minutes than not in the postseason. And that's kind of what they do in big games already. Heck, that might get like to 40 minutes a night as the playoffs go on. But I'm interested to see what the Thunder do in terms of handling the postseason rotation and a team that's been very unconventional. How conventional do you get on the biggest stage? I personally have confidence that they'll stay the course, that they'll continue to believe in what they believe in. But you see it all the time across varying sports. Like, sometimes you are unconventional, then you get to the big spotlight, then you get to the big moment, and because of maybe the fear of outside pressure, maybe the way things have always been done, or maybe because of what history tells you to do, you revert back to more conventional wisdom. I do not think that will happen with this team, but until we see it, that will be a question mark of, can they continue to play an unconventional style? I think that they will. I think that they'll play the exact way that got them 57 wins. And 57 wins with fantastic games against everyone in the playoffs that's left. Like, you can point to moments against the Clippers, Mavericks, Timberwolves, Suns, Nuggets, even the Lakers, where this style was able to be successful. It was able to get you big wins, and especially against the Pelicans, especially against the Kings. The Pelicans, your lone loss to the Pelicans was blowing a 20-point lead on national television back on November 1st. At home. I don't think that'll happen again. I really don't. But for those of you, again, just as a quick reminder, that need the playoff schedule, Sunday at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 local, Game 1 in the Paycom Center on TNT. Same time on Wednesday for Game 2 on TNT. And then Game 3 and 4 will be on the 27th and the 29th. Game 3 will be at 2:30 Central on TNT. Game 4 through 7 do not have announced television or times yet, but Game 4 is on the 29th. Game 5 is on the 1st of May. Game 6 is on the 3rd of May. Game 7 is on the 5th of May. And for those of you that are local, any game that's not on ABC, so like these games that are on TNT, these first 3, any games not on ABC will be shown on Bally Sports Oklahoma as well. So if you want to listen to Nick Gallo, Paris Lawson, Chris Fisher, and Michael Cage, you can go ahead and do that. Also, all games, of course, will be on WWLS, the sports animal. So it's going to be interesting to see how the center team fares. We're going to have a lot of content for you coming out. Again, Jacob Niffen coming out today. We're going to talk to Andrew Schleck Thursday, Joe Mazzato Friday, Joel on Saturday to recap the play-in as we officially have our matchup for the Thunder. And then Sunday morning, Sunday at midnight, you're going to get my thoughts on just the series overall, my final prediction, everything on Sunday at midnight. Pre-game Sunday, you should also get keys to the game for Game 1, which is just going to be a short 10-minute bonus podcast in there as well. So a lot of stuff coming out make sure that you're subscribing to Locked On Thunder anywhere you get your podcast from. Make sure that you are there on YouTube and any other podcasting platform, and comment down below. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.